Hello, everyone. In today's broadcast, we are going to delve deeply into the current dynamics of the 2024 U.S. presidential election, scrutinizing up-to-date polling data from across the states as we rapidly near the election day, now just 22 days out. The race between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris is shaping up to be extraordinarily close, with both candidates battling fiercely to secure the pivotal 270 electoral votes required for victory. Our journey through the electoral map begins on the West Coast, where both Washington and Oregon are anticipated to lean decisively Democratic. In California, where Vice President Harris has previously served 4 years as a U.S. Senator, she is currently outpacing Donald Trump by a substantial margin of 23.7%. Turning our gaze to Nevada, we see Vice President Harris slightly ahead with 47.7% of the vote compared to Trump's 47.1%. A razor-thin lead of just 0.6%. Nevada has shown a consistent preference for Democratic candidates since 2008, with victories for both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, each by a margin of about 2.4% in their respective races. Despite the close call this election cycle, current polls indicate that Kamala Harris still holds a narrow lead. In Arizona, the situation shifts as Donald Trump takes the lead by 1.8%. Arizona has shown a rightward shift lately, yet it's not crucial for Kamala Harris to win here to achieve overall victory. For Donald Trump, on the other hand, Arizona is vital. Without this state, his path to the presidency narrows significantly. Although President Biden won Arizona in the last election, current trends suggest a likely swing back to red this coming November, with Trump aiming to reclaim the state he won by almost 4 percentage points back in 2016. Moving on to Colorado and New Mexico, states where Biden secured double-digit wins in the last elections. Colorado by nearly 14% and New Mexico by approximately 11%. Currently in Colorado, Vice President Harris is showing a solid lead of 12 percentage points as evidenced by 3 recent polls, solidifying its status as a stronghold for the Democrats. In New Mexico, Harris enjoys an 8% lead with poll data showing steady support, indicating another robust performance for the Democrats in this cycle. In Texas, a state that has been a Republican bastion since 1980, the competition is incredibly tight, with Donald Trump leading by a margin of just 6.6%. This is only a slight increase from the 2020 election, where he led Biden by 5 percentage points. Therefore, it is anticipated that Texas will likely lean Republican once more. We now shift our focus to the heartland of the U.S., encompassing Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, both North and South Dakota, as well as Nebraska's 1st and 3rd districts, its at-large vote, plus Kansas and Oklahoma. These areas are expected to overwhelmingly back Trump. In contrast, Nebraska's 2nd district is projected to swing in favor of Harris, while Alaska is likely to edge toward the Republicans and Hawaii is set to remain firmly Democratic. Turning our attention to the critical Midwest region of the electoral map, Vice President Kamala Harris needs to achieve victories in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, as well as in Minnesota and Illinois, to amass the required 270 electoral votes. Both Illinois and Minnesota are widely expected to favor her, positioning them as probable wins. However, the outcomes in the key battlegrounds of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania remain uncertain. Conversely, President Donald Trump must secure at least one of these fiercely contested states to have a viable shot at winning the election. In Minnesota, Vice President Harris currently enjoys a lead of 5.8%, largely attributable to her strategic alliance with the state's governor, Tim Walz, who has played a pivotal role in bolstering her campaign. Consequently, Minnesota is leaning Democratic. While Harris may not replicate Biden's 2020 margin of victory, where he secured the state by 7 percentage points, her present advantage is still sufficient to place her in a strong position to claim the state. Meanwhile, President Trump is slightly ahead in Iowa, with a 5.5% lead. This lead is less robust than his past victories in the state, where he won by 9 points in 2016 and 8 points in 2020. This trend indicates a weakening of Trump's stronghold in Iowa over the last 3 election cycles, although it still tips in his favor. On the other hand, Illinois is expected to vote Democratic, while Indiana is predicted to remain solidly Republican. The electoral battle in Wisconsin is proving to be extremely close and vital. Vice President Harris holds a marginal lead of 0.6%, with recent surveys indicating that the race is becoming increasingly competitive. Earlier in her campaign, she enjoyed a slightly more comfortable lead of around 2 percentage points, but this advantage has diminished over time. Despite the narrowing gap, she remains the favored candidate in Wisconsin, a state that is also critical for President Trump's re-election efforts. It is anticipated that Wisconsin will lean slightly Democratic, similar to the electoral climate in Nevada. In Michigan, which is considered one of the more Democratic-leaning swing states, Vice President Harris currently has a slim lead of 0.8%. The competition in Michigan is tight and intensifying, a typical scenario for such a crucial state. Despite the close race, Vice President Harris seems to have a minor advantage, which suggests that she is well positioned to potentially secure a victory in this key battleground state. This continues to mark Michigan as a state leaning in favor of Harris, reflecting her generally strong position in the election. Ohio, a state President Trump captured in the previous two elections, currently shows him with a 7.7% lead, roughly aligning with his 8-point victory margins in 2016 and 2020. Ohio has transitioned away from its previous battleground status. Trump is decidedly the frontrunner to win here, and it is highly likely that he will carry Ohio once again. As we shift our focus to Pennsylvania and wrapping up our analysis of the Midwest, it's notable that Donald Trump could still secure the presidency, even if Vice President Kamala Harris wins this crucial state. Currently, Harris has a slight edge with a 0.7% lead. Throughout this election season, the race in Pennsylvania has been notably close, with Harris maintaining a narrow lead. If she can claim victory in Pennsylvania and the rest of the upper Midwest, it would markedly enhance her prospects of winning. Looking towards the Northeast, Vice President Kamala Harris seems set to dominate the area. She is likely to win the states of Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and the District of Columbia convincingly. In New York, despite a general decline in Democratic popularity due to the unfavorability of local leaders like Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul, Harris is ahead by a significant 14.1%. This places her in a strong position to capture the state's 28 electoral votes, which would be a major triumph for her campaign. In New Hampshire, often referred to as the Granite State, Vice President Harris holds a steady lead of 6.6% over Donald Trump. This is particularly significant as Hillary Clinton won the state by only a small margin in 2016. Harris's stable lead indicates that New Hampshire is leaning towards the Democrats, almost reaching the 7-point mark that would firmly categorize it as a likely Democratic state. Turning to Maine, Vice President Harris has established a robust lead of 10%, surpassing Joe Biden's 2020 victory margin in the state, which was 9.1%. This indicates a strong Democratic inclination in Maine as a whole, with the 1st congressional district being solidly Democratic, while the 2nd district appears to be leaning towards Donald Trump. Concluding our review of the electoral map in the southern United States, let's look at the states solidly backing Trump: Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and South Carolina. These states are anticipated to overwhelmingly support the former president in the upcoming election. Beginning our analysis in Virginia, the first of the last 4 states under discussion, Vice President Kamala Harris is ahead by a considerable margin of 7.6%. While there has been speculation about the possibility of Harris losing Virginia, such a scenario seems highly unlikely. Reflecting on the 2020 elections, where Joe Biden won Virginia by a significant margin, it is expected that Kamala Harris will also secure a victory here, reinforcing it as a stronghold for the Democratic Party. Moving to North Carolina, a state with a historical Republican leaning as seen in the last 2 presidential elections, Donald Trump narrowly won in 2020 by just 1%. Presently, Kamala Harris is slightly behind by 0.9%. Although North Carolina is not critical to Harris's path to victory, it remains a competitive battleground. The polls show a slight Republican advantage, but the outcome is still crucial. In Georgia, affectionately known as the Peach State, the previous election was determined by an extremely tight margin. Trump prevailed by just 0.24%, marking it as the nation's closest contest. Currently, Trump leads by 1%, indicating another tight race this election cycle. Although Trump is viewed as the frontrunner, Kamala Harris remains within close reach, making Georgia a hotly contested state with a likely Republican lean. In Florida, the political landscape has shifted considerably in the last 4 years, veering towards a more pronounced Republican stance. Donald Trump currently has a 5 percentage point lead. Despite Ron DeSantis winning his gubernatorial re-election by a large margin in 2022, the presidential race appears to be more contested. Democrats still hold out hope to overcome Trump's lead, but he is currently favored to win in Florida. To conclude, with just a few days left until the election, projections currently favor Kamala Harris with 276 electoral votes against Donald Trump's 262. The electoral map predominantly supports Harris, suggesting she has a strong chance of securing the presidency again. Thank you all for joining us today. Don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more detailed and engaging updates.